Today I'm going to talk to you about what you can do with the flowers of evening primrose. They are full of nectar, they are very sweet, and they are very healthy. And I'm going to be doing a flower harvest and making a syrup out of it. And so, let's get started. This morning I'm going to be picking some evening primrose flowers. That's these right here. They're really wonderful. They're very sweet, edible, very, very healthy. And now they're called evening primrose because they bloom, they open in the evening. But they just begin to open, and so I like to let them open and then pick them in the early morning. Like for instance, this one probably opened the night before last, and so I'm not going to pick those ones. All these ones that are open this morning because they opened last night. Now, evening primrose is one of the many edible flowers that I've spoken to you about, which is really wonderful. Edible flowers are wonderful because you can, for instance, when you think of saffron, you can make your own saffron with edible flowers, with marigolds or with calendula or with evening primrose. And so because saffron can tend to be expensive, and yet we have an abundance of flowers that you can use to use in the place of saffron and do so many other things with. So for instance, with these evening primrose, I'm going to make a syrup with these, a wonderful, delicious and healthy syrup, as if it was maple syrup or dandelion honey or something like that. I'm going to make an evening primrose syrup, which I'm going to be able to use during the winter time. It will be delicious. It will be healthy. I'll show you how I do it later on. And that's what you can do with so many edible flowers. You can make syrups, you can make jams, you can make jellies, you can add them to salads, you can throw them in your, on top of your rice, let's say, or throw them on top of a soup. So many things to do. And so I'm going to basically just fill this jar with these blooms. And then later on, I will show you what I'm going to be doing with them. And the thing is about evening primrose as well is beneath these flowers, if you come a little closer, you can see these seed pods here. The seed pods are actually also edible. You could use them like you would capers or something like that in a stir fry or something, or in soups. And if you let them dry and go brown, and then when they kind of crack open, then you can harvest the seeds for replanting, but you can also harvest the seeds for eating because the seeds are really good for you. They're full of omega-3 fatty acids. You can put them in milkshakes and that kind of thing, and smoothies. So there you go. This is picking evening primrose in the early morning when it's still nice and fresh in order to make a wonderful evening primrose syrup. So here I have my evening primrose flowers, and I'm going to start the process to make a syrup out of these flowers. And this syrup is going to not only get all the goodness of the petals in there, but all of the delicious nectar that's inside the flower and the pollen. All of it is so good. If you wanted to buy pollen in the grocery store, it's so expensive. And you got it all in here, especially because these just bloomed last night during the night. So the first thing I'm going to do, because some of these flowers might have a few little bugs on them, which I don't really mind that much. It's just a bit of extra protein. However, it might not look very appetizing to have little tiny bugs floating in our syrup. So I'm just gonna throw a little bit of water on here. The tiny little bugs, they don't like all that water so if there are any, then they'll kind of come up and fly away. But I mean, as I was picking, I didn't really see any, but I just saw a couple, so I thought I'd give that a try. So there that part is. I don't see any. Looks good. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start transferring the flours into this jar. I'm going to put a layer of flours and a layer of sugar, a layer of flours and a layer of sugar. So here goes. And I'll flatten the layer of flours a little bit. I don't want to make the layer too thick. Flatten that layer of flours just a little bit like that. And now, maybe put a couple more in the middle there because there's lots of stems. Because what I'm going to do now is put sugar, and I'm going to cover, whoops, I put that sugar too fast. I'd rather kind of put it gently so I can cover the whole layer with sugar, but with not too much sugar. So if I put it gently, then it's going to spread a little better. And so there we go. So there's the first layer right there. That'll look good. And now I'm going to continue. Next layer. A little bit more. Press it down just slightly. I don't want to crush them, but flatten them a little. Give a nice little good surface for the sugar. Now, cover that layer. This is just what the sugar does. What's going to happen is after I'm all done, I'm going to add a little bit of water. But what this sugar does is it is going to draw out the nectar and the other juices from within the flour. And because what I'm going to do is have this, I think the word in English is macerate. I'm going to have it macerate, or I don't know if there's a better word than that, but anyways, until tomorrow. It's going to stay, I'm going to put this in the fridge with the water and the sugar until tomorrow. And over those 24 hours, all of the wonderful juices and so on, vitamins and so on, are going to be drawn out by the sugar into the water. And so that when tomorrow I strain everything, all the goodness of the flour will be in the liquid. Okay, so there's another layer. Probably just going to be one more layer after this. Now just gently put some sugar on top of that. So we're not making a jelly or something, we're really making a syrup. Jellies require too much sugar, and I'm not interested in that. Interested in the sugar for its properties of drawing out properties from the flour. And I think this is going to be the last layer. It's going to be a thicker layer. And then I'm going to press everything down a bit. Magadi actually showed me how to do this. She's given me a few directions from behind the camera. Okay, I'm going to press that down a bit more than the others. Actually, no, I'm going to press it down even more because I don't want to press it down when the sugar's in there, because then I'm just going to get sugar all over my hands. So I think that's pressed down enough. So now I'm going to add the sugar. Maybe I'll add a bit more sugar because it's the top. And so it'll be, if there's any sugar missing in any of the other layers, then there we go. So now I can't see any flours. It's all nice and pressed down. So now what I'm going to do is add some water so that I just cover the flours. Likely when I add the water, it's going to go down even a little bit more, and because I don't want to have too much water. I don't want the syrup to be watery, because then I'll just have to boil it more, and no use wasting energy. Okay, well, it's going to take a bit to, you can hear it bubbling down. Listen to that. Add some more water now that it's bubbled down. I'm gonna add a bit more sugar on top because I've uncovered the top flowers. So, but I believe I've got enough water in here because it looks like all the flowers are covered in water. And you know what? There's going to be water drawn out of the flowers, especially the nectar. And so the water is going to go up while the flowers go down. Because as the water is drawn out of the flowers are going to lose some of their volume. And so they're going to settle. I've done this before. I'm not sure if I've done a video, but I've done this before with my winter watermelons, where I just add sugar, not even any water. Of course, they're full of water. There we go. All set. And so now this is going to sit for 24 hours until tomorrow. And then, well, tomorrow I will continue the process. But likely tomorrow is going to be straining it and boiling it down. So it's several hours later, and I've noticed that some of the sugar is floating on top. And so I just like to just push these down a little so all the sugar gets under the liquid. It's only about half a centimeter, half an inch from liquid. So I'm just gonna press this a little. Like I said, this is about 4 hours later. You can see how the liquid is already changing color. I just want to make sure all these flowers stay under the water and the sugar too. There we are. But I'm gonna wait till tomorrow morning to continue the process. But I'm gonna lick the spoon. Tastes like sweet elderberry. I meant to say it tastes like sweet evening primrose. I was just harvesting some elderberry. So we are actually 2 days later. I had said that I would continue this the following day, but 2 days later is fine. So these evening primrose flowers have been in the water with the water and the sugar now macerating for 2 days. So now I'm going to remove the flowers and I'm going to use a colander. I'm just going to pour the liquid through the colander and keep the flowers. So that's the first step. We're just going to start that now. I did that a little bit too fast. Lost a bit of the juice there, but very little. About a spoonful. Now, because it's sort of, the flowers made a big bunch, just making sure all that syrup is coming through. As you can see, it's still coming through here when I press on the flowers, because they're just full, so full of syrup. I can't wait to taste the finished product of this. Now, I've pretty well got it all, and there's probably still a little bit of sweetness and the syrup left on these flowers. But what I'm going to do with these flowers now, I've set out some parchment paper here, and I'm just going to spread this out on the parchment paper, because I am going to put these flowers in the oven. Just going to spread them out a little. I'm going to put these flowers in the oven, these nice sweet flowers, and I am going to dry them at about 150 degrees Fahrenheit, for however long it takes to dry them. And then we'll be able to use them like candy, or put them in cookies or cakes or bread, sweeten it up, give it that little flavor of evening primrose. And now this here, the syrup that's right here, which is already looking like a syrup. Let's have a look at this. It's already looking a little bit like a syrup. Almost like it's even thicker than a good maple syrup. A good natural maple syrup, that is. But I'm going to boil it down a little bit more to give a nice thick consistency. And then eventually it's gonna look like this. This is one that we prepared this week. This is another one of evening primrose. So now I'm going to go into the kitchen. I could do it on the fire if I wanted, but I'll do it in the kitchen because there's not that much here. And I'll go boil it down, and then I'm going to put it into a jar. And because there's not that much here, there's what, maybe half a liter here, I guess, or maybe a full liter, I'm not sure, or 2/3 of a liter. maybe like 2 or 3 cups. I'm probably not going to can it, because I'll just keep it in the fridge. There's not a whole lot of it, unless Magali would like to have this later in the winter. Then I'll can it up. I'll can it. I'll give it a hot water bath and can it to make that seal. So there you go. Now we're going to go into the kitchen and finish up the process. Now I'm putting this in the oven. Put it at 150 degrees. Let it dry. And the syrup, I'm just going to boil it until it's a little thicker consistency, like the consistency of a table syrup, any type of table syrup. And by the way, this process that I'm showing you, that I showed you with putting the flours with sugar and then water and macerating it for 24 hours or 48 hours, can be done really with any flavorful edible flour. And when I mean flavorful, I mean it has a certain flavor to it. And because whatever the flavor, it's going to be heightened by the fact that you're creating a syrup. Even the flours that maybe have a much more subtle flavor that's more difficult to detect, you can also do this process, because you're getting the whole goodness of the pollen and the nectar. Of course, if you want it completely pure, then all you need to do is eat those flowers fresh in a salad. But these syrups are really, really nice. This is the evening primrose syrup boiling. It's probably got another 5 to 10 minutes to boil. So it's been boiling for about 25 minutes. Now I'm just going to let it cool down before pouring it into the jar, and I'm going to run it through a very fine tea filter as I pour it into the jar, a stainless steel tea filter. So I've got the evening primrose syrup here. Now, because there's a little bit of a film on top, I'm going to pass it through this tea filter, which has got a really, really very fine holes in it. I'll try to do this slowly. I don't want to use there's a wasp coming around. I don't want to use a cheesecloth, because too much of the syrup would stick to it. There we go. All done. It's gonna be delicious. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you found it useful. If you got any questions, don't forget to leave them in the comments. And if you enjoyed it, then please share it with your friends. And if you haven't done so yet, then subscribe to our channel. Support us just by subscribing. Have a wonderful week, and we will see you next time. At our wedding, Magali and I handed out little bags of old pumpkin and squash seed to use as confetti. The seed was from 2020, our first summer here. And we had a ton of seed. This extra seed that we haven't been using to plant anymore. And now it's started to grow right up through the grass in the area where we got married. So we're going to let a few of these grow and see how they do. It's not too often that something grows exactly as planned. But I have to say that this area grew exactly like I had hoped it would.